New videos every day.
And then you also close the courthouse to all claims of racial discrimination. That's called the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. So basically you shred the Constitution to allow for this all-out warfare on drugs, which of course really means warfare on certain people. Now, which people is that? Well, let's take a look at the role of discretion. 2002 statistics. Over 20 million users of illegal drugs in the United States. Tens of millions, right? Arrests for illegal drug activity, about 1.5 million. Going to prison, about 175,000. So in other words, a small percentage of this overall deal. This is a consensual activity called using drugs, right? So strategic choices are required to be made. If you're going to have a war on drugs, you can't go be locking up 20 million people. Even if you do escalate the prison population exponentially to 2 million, you still have a subset to choose from. So who's it going to be? Well, consider this. And I'm going to read a short section from Alexander. Actually, she's quoting Gwen Lowry, who wrote a book called The Anatomy of Racial Inequality. Can we envision a system that would enforce drug laws almost exclusively among young white men and largely ignore drug crime among young black men? Can you imagine that? Can we imagine large majorities of young white men being rounded up for minor drug offenses, placed under the control of the criminal system, labeled felons, and then subjected to a lifetime of discrimination, scorn, and exclusion? Can we imagine this happening while most black men landed decent jobs or trotted off to college? Doesn't take a lot to think about that would not go far, given that white people have the political and economic power. But that's exactly what's happening in reverse. Drug laws are enforced almost exclusively against black people, especially in the inner cities, young black men specifically, rounded up for minor drug offenses that my children and the children of other white people are doing at least as routinely. Will we ever dismiss the thought that white men were simply reaping what they've sown? The criminalization of white men would disturb us to the core. So the critical questions are, what disturbs us? What is dissonant? What seems anomalous? What is contrary to expectation? More to the point, whom do we care about? It's a clear choice. When the government allots money, resources, military arms, et cetera, and a political mandate to go after the war on drugs, and you give total discretion, who are you going to go after? You're not going to go after the sons of rich white people in preppy colleges. You're going to go after the ghetto kids who've already been secluded that way. And it's not that you hate black people, it's that you hate crime. And so it's justified. Here's the data on juveniles from around 2000. African Americans 6 times more likely to be sent to prison for identical crimes as white youth. 16% of black youth in the general population, 28% of arrests, 35% waived to an adult court, and 58% admitted to adult prison. This is juveniles. Young adolescent boys. Racial indifference allows this to happen. Are you going to allow yourself to deeply care about all young people? I do. Here's something on the psychology real quick. This is a brilliant book. Here's an experiment. Would you close your eyes for a second? Close your eyes, envision a drug user, and describe that person. What do you see? This experiment was done and published in the Journal of Alcohol and Drug Education in 1995. 95% of respondents pictured a black drug user, while only 5% pictured other groups. %, even though drug users are only 15% black African American, because that's the percentage in the population, and the use is equal across groups. It goes on and on. Psychological research on cognitive bias, implicit and explicit. Conscious and unconscious biases operate, and they operate independently. We can say that we're consciously not racist, but that unconscious bias that's been perpetrated by the media and the propaganda for the last 30 years has created a schema and image called criminal black drug user. Criminal black man. And that's the image that pops up. And it's okay to hate a criminal, right? I mean, think about it. How does this sound? We really need to do something about the problem of white crime, right? The term white criminal is confusing or confounding, whereas the term black criminal is practically redundant, you know? She quotes Nietzsche saying, "There is no immaculate perception." I hope this video, and I really encourage reading Alexander's book, helps to cleanse the doors of perception a little bit. Because here's what's happening. We've systematically created the idea that young plus black plus male equals suspicion. That justifies arrest, interrogation, search, detention. It's a war on our children. And they're made into criminals. Here's what one guy said. Felony is the new N-word. Today's lynching is a felony charge. Once you get that F, you're on fire. Because it's not just going to prison, it's a lifetime sentence where you're caught up in that system. And you're subject to 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, and you're subject to constant surveillance and harassment. And you're subject to voter disenfranchisement. Oh, we mentioned the 4th and 14th Amendment already. Let's throw out the 15th too, and the right to vote. It's all about the structure, how it's set up. It's justified as, well, these are criminals, they deserve it. By the way, a lot of them are actually innocent, and the total discretion means that very few people go to trial, and these people certainly can't afford it, so they plea bargain after the prosecutor puts 12 dozen charges on them. But even if they're guilty of using a drug, they're still young people experimenting with drugs, just like my children. And just like Bill Clinton, and just like Barack the mindset of racial indifference to please work to free that up and come back into deeply caring for people. Can you imagine the incredible shame and stigma of a teenager who's constantly called, distrusted, harassed, searched, taken down? Very sad. Can you see the alternative of deeply caring, of truly valuing, of genuine respect, from the Latin respectus, which means to see again? Can you see a human being, a young adolescent who needs support to come of age under very, very difficult circumstances, instead of a programmed image of criminal black man? Please do. And it's in for all of us. It's in for all of us. So Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, deeply caring for all young people, most definitely including young black men. Thank you. How long was that?
If you liked this video, we have hundreds of more alternative videos ranging from sexual health to psychology to mind control. So if you liked it, go ahead and click on me to enter the Psychetruth channel.